Hello, good morning, and welcome back for another round of World Talks. Now it's time to bring in a guest to discuss the significance of President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, his visit to Moscow, which he begins day 2 this morning. Now here to discuss is Marcin Styszyński, Institute of Oriental Studies at Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznan. Hello, sir, and thanks for joining us on World Talks this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. Now, considering the fact that the United States has deployed additional forces to the Middle East in anticipation of Iranian retaliation against Israel, so a wider conflict is indeed expected, President Mahmoud Abbas is saying his visit to Russia, the reason he's doing so is to exchange views on the latest international events, coordinate positions, and strengthen bilateral relations. So based on just that statement alone, what do you think it is that Mahmoud Abbas is trying to accomplish by visiting Vladimir Putin and Moscow?
Yes, this is a very important question, of course. You've just mentioned in the program at the beginning all important details. Just to note that President Mahmoud Abbas, it's his first visit to Moscow since 2021. This visit was postponed several times due to the tragic situation in the Gaza Strip. So now it's the official visit in Moscow from hosting by President Putin. So that's why it's also important. We should remember that we have two objectives in this topic, because on the one hand, President Putin tries to distract from the ongoing situation in Ukraine, especially in the ongoing military operation in Kursk Oblast. So he tries to distract the attention from the situation in Russia towards the tragic situation in the Middle East, especially in the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, we should remember that President Putin and Russia it's an important player in the Middle East, especially that the Arab scene, or the Arab political scene and public scene consider Russia as an alternative of or equivalent of the U.S. involvement in the Middle East, especially that Washington declares its support towards Israel. So in this context, Russia could be an alternative. Besides, we should also add that Mahmoud Abbas is also an important player now, because although a long year of tensions between Mahmoud Abbas, who represents Fatah in Palestine, and Hamas, now we have a kind of conciliation between the two sides under auspices of China. It was just a couple of weeks ago that two rival sides joined a meeting, and they are ready to negotiate the future state of Palestine.
Right, and Mahmoud Abbas sits in a pretty good position with Hamas pretty much being completely crossed off any type of negotiations with the West. But even then, it seems like Mahmoud Abbas should be in a better position with the West to be the only legitimate person that can be dealt with or negotiated with concerning the Palestinian state. So is this bet going to pay off for Mahmoud Abbas, or is this just typically what he needs to do to garner as much support worldwide as he can?
Yes, you are absolutely right that Mahmoud Abbas is a legitimate or authoritative persons towards the West or in the West instead of Hamas. But I've just mentioned that this pact between Fatah organization represented by Mahmoud Abbas and Hamas, especially in the context of the tragic situation in the Gaza Strip, changed a lot. So it means that in some ways, Mahmoud Abbas also will represent the situation in the Gaza Strip as well. But of course, especially after the death of political representatives of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, the role of Mahmoud Abbas is growing, of course.
Do you think the two-state solution is definitely on the agenda there? Is Mahmoud Abbas interested in forging through with that despite any significant negotiations or basically development in relations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, as some countries are now recognizing Palestine?
Yes, indeed. It's an important question, and still it's an open question, especially in the context of the tragic reports. Every day we have tragic reports from the Gaza Strip, especially the growing figures of civilians, and different tragic damages and etc. So it's hard to say that now we have a kind of negotiations, although still the negotiations are on the table because we hear about negotiations in Cairo, in other states, under auspices of Qatar and the United States and Egypt as well. But unfortunately, the ongoing situation and reports and expected retaliations regarding the killing of Ismail Haniyeh, those topics complicate the situation, and it's hard to talk about any kind of solutions, peaceful solution.
You mentioned that it's actually convenient for Mahmoud Abbas to be in Moscow right now, allowing President Vladimir Putin to kind of shift attention away from the Kursk region and what's going on there. But do you think that this upcoming, what we're anticipating, an Iranian retaliatory strike, will that also play into Vladimir Putin's hands as far as turning the attention away from what's going on in Russia?
Yes, of course, because Iran still declares, of course, it's a psychological war. We should remember that we are under proxy war in the world, and one of the mechanisms is a psychological war, but still we are expecting these retaliations from Iran and its proxies. So, of course, relationship between Iran and Russia are quite good because our equipment, military equipment, comes from there. The drones and missiles and etc. So besides Russia also, we should remember that the Minister of Defense Shoigu just visited Tehran just a couple of days ago after the death of Ismail Haniyeh. So these relationships are quite good, and it's still a credible player for Iran and Russia. Instead of the United States, that's, in my opinion, its role is decreasing now, especially within the Arab and Muslim public opinion. This role is replaced more and more by China and Russia. Unfortunately, Washington supports for a long time Israel, and among the Arab states, it's not credible and it's not optimistic for the future.
Okay, Marcin Styszyński, Institute of Oriental Studies, Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznan. Thank you very much for your insight on this matter, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.